well, a few minutes just to kind of get online. So in a few minutes, we'll get started, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Public Amenities Plan. My name is Greg Kapovich. I'm the Director of the Waterfront and Economic Development. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is not only an in-person meeting, but it's hybrid. We do have a lot of people via Zoom. And it's an exciting time to be a part of this. This has been a key strategy and component of our City Council for quite a while. Really quick, just to kind of give an overall view of the Public Amenities Plan, really it's our effort to reinvest into our existing amenities of what's out in the waterfront to potentially rebuild and potentially relocate and create new amenities offered to the residents. Hopefully it does one of two things. It provides some more amenities for the public and everything that you guys want to use the water for. But also we're hoping that it spurs some private development in the future. Build the infrastructure and hopefully the private investment follows, right? So at this point, we have consulted with SWA, and they are here to present on a couple of things. One is the results of our latest survey, which was in April or so. But the second is to essentially provide you with a few recommendations. At this point in the process, this meeting itself concludes the public outreach portion of the process. And that's not to mean that there's no more opportunity for public participation. But what this means is that we've taken the input from the community and we're going to take a first stab at trying to put together something that addresses everybody's concerns, okay? Next steps involve a public hearing process, which would go forward to the Harbor Commission as well as the City Council. And both of those would be available for public comment and participation, at which point everyone here will have seen a draft of the concept. Now, for tonight, you know, this document's really it's a guiding document, it's a policy document. We're not creating plans that are shovel-ready, construction-ready drawings. Instead, we're kind of more conceptual. What kind of amenities? Here's the questions that we're asking ourselves tonight. What kind of amenities do we want to see out in the waterfront? Where do we want them located? What kind of size and scope do we want to see? And then how are they connected? How do people access the amenities, and how do they interrelate with the other amenities that are surrounding that amenity? And I said this is a policy document because in the future, each one of these individual projects, Seaside Lagoon, the waterfront educational facility, the boat launch, they're all going to go through a similar public process just for that one specific design item. That's where we start asking questions of what type of trees do we plant? What does the building look like? How big are the walls that are being constructed? Those are the shovel-ready plans that will eventually be ironed out. Tonight, it's really about what's the amenity being provided, where's it at, and how does it connect with everything else? How do we get everybody to participate in that amenity? So with that, I will introduce Jeremy. He's with our SWA group, and he's going to start the presentation.
So for those that are online, know that I see a lot of red shirts in the audience tonight. Not because people are angry, but because red is a good color. And it's great to see a lot of the members of Lana Kila out here as well. So similar to what Greg said, I'm going to take a brief overview of kind of the project just to really situate us all where we're at right now. And if technology works, it should pass up for me. If not, I'll just ask Jana, go ahead and advance the slide. It's supposed to bounce and come into here. I could sit in front of the computer, but it might be better just to stand up here and talk to everybody. So what we're looking at tonight is a project overview, about 3 minutes of that. And then we're going to get into the community participation summary. And then I'm going to present kind of what we're calling our draft recommendations. And then we'll have a public comment period of about 85 minutes. We've broken the public comment period into 3 different zones. And what we're looking at zone-wise is really parks and public open space. And then we're looking at coastal or the boating areas, and then kind of overall planned connectivity. Go ahead. So obviously, we want to hear from you. This portion of this slide is really also for people that are on the Zoom call. Please stay on mute throughout the presentation. There'll be comment periods later. Next. Our group, who are we? So SWA, we're a landscape architecture firm. We're based in Los Angeles. And we are also partnered up with Anchor QEA, who are waterfront engineering consultants. We're partnered up with Murakawa Communications, who do outreach and have been handling our social media and our websites. And we're also partnered up with Cumming, who are going to be doing our cost estimate and implementation progress for the plan itself. And we're also partnered with Architectural Resources Group, who have been evaluating the existing buildings that are on site. Next. So project overview. So what we're looking at here, you can go to the next slide. What we're looking at is what is the King Harbor Amenities Plan? What will it do? And what we really want is we're here to find out from the public, how can we help make the King Harbor area the best version of itself? What are the areas that we can improve upon? What are the things that the public want to see? Next. So we were originally tasked with 7 different elements and items, and whether it's advancing for Moonstone Park, whether it's looking at community connectivity, whether it's really trying to look at certain elements, right sizing, right spaces, everything that Greg kind of talked about. Next. So we were tasked with 7 specific areas to look at, and that is Moonstone Park, that's the Seaside Lagoon, the sports fishing pier, the public boat launch, Dinghy Docks, as well as the hand launch and international boardwalk. Next. The phases that we're in, it's a 4-stage process. Originally, this was going to take about 9 months. and it started last September. So phase one, it was really launch and listen, really kind of get out to the community, launch what the idea was, let the public know that this process is happening. Next, we were entering I was going to say share and evaluate, but that's phase three. So phase two is explore and synthesize. We come up with these really great terms that try and explain everything a little bit. And explore and synthesize, we also had more pop-ups, and we had a secondary survey coming through. And in each one of these portions, we also presented to the working committee, a group of stakeholders that was put together specifically to kind of vet our ideas so that we're not just saying working in a complete empty box scenario. Everything that you're seeing tonight has been vetted and talked over with the working group. They explained some ideas were not going to work, some ideas we really need to look into more, but then we also made sure that we had surveys and outreach. And part of that came down to, after talking to the commission and talking to city council, we actually did a whole second survey based upon the fact it was not originally planned, and that's sort of what extended this process a little bit longer. Initially, it was going to be done right around now, we'd be in public hearings. So instead, we're about to be entering the second half of what we're calling the share and evaluate phase, and that's tonight, our last public outreach, and then we'll be moving forward into public hearings, as Greg mentioned. Next. So community participation summary. Go ahead, next. So really, like we were saying in phase one, our launch and listen phase, we had 2 pop-ups. And then in phase 2, we had another 2 pop-ups. These were talked about with the working committee, talked about with the city as to where these could be located to try and garner the most, not necessarily trying to get opinions at that point, even though we did have surveys out and we did have information. It was really to publicize the plan, to publicize the surveys. Next. Then we had a launch and listen phase where we did our first community outreach, which was on Zoom, and we kind of presented the plan to try and get our first survey, really to garner attention to the survey. And we had that survey, we took those results, and then we shared them at the second community meeting. And after the second community meeting, it became clear, there's some people that really want to have some more advice, really want to kind of work out. Into the city's credit, they asked us to do a second survey and kind of put everything out together. So that's where you have the second survey, and now we're here tonight. Next. So what does this look like? When you see plan development at the center, you can see all the areas around, whether it's the community, whether it's stakeholders, it's different plan iterations, it's different ideas, kind of everything coalescing and overlapping to what you're going to see this evening. Next. So the draft, King Harbor Public Amenities Plan. Can we go next? So really, the 4 things that we really want to look at as a big overarching picture as to how to make the harbor the best version of itself. It's improved access to the waterfront, a cohesive pedestrian experience, views and open space, and how do we renovate and invigorate? How are we going to draw people into this space and make it something that Redondo Beach can be proud of? So one of the first things that we like to try and do as we start looking at the overall big picture is try and create and help establish a mental map. So people, when they're down at the harbor, they can sort of understand where they're at. Are they in kind of the natural area that we're looking at, sort of Moonstone Park and open space? Are you in the coastal zone, kind of looking at boating experiences, the commercial zone, international boardwalk, or what we're kind of delicately calling right now the harbor hub, which is really the heart area where a lot is going to happen with the sports fishing pier, the hand launch, Seaside Lagoon, really trying to create this central space, this central hub in the middle of the harbor. And one thing that came out through a lot of our outreach was actually a need of an 8th amenity that was not on our list originally, and that was the educational zone. How can we bring an educational space to the harbor? Next. So the harbor hub. This is sort of, go back one. This is sort of a rendering, a little bit of what you would see, kind of a look and feel for what you'd be when you're right in the middle of that lawn space in between the Seaside Lagoon, looking out at the sports fishing pier, down at the hand launch. Next. So you can see it's kind of right down that pathway right there in the center, which kind of connects from the parking lots directly down to the hand launch. The harbor hub consists of Seaside Lagoon, the educational center, the hand launch, and the sports fishing pier. We've kind of added a little bit in that central plaza area that's right up above the hand launch, above the sports fishing pier, really trying to create a space where maybe it could be informational, could be a kiosk, similar to like what we spoke about earlier. Each of these zones will have a look and feel, but they will all be tied together. Next. So key takeaways, what we heard from the survey. We kind of presented essentially 3 different concept iterations. One, a great lawn with a lagoon upgrade. Another, more of an aquatic park with a great lawn, and then kind of a large hybrid with aquatic, open space, and really looking at sort of if we were to maintain that Seaside Lagoon original footprint, which we know from Measure C, we're looking at roughly 1 acre worth of waterfront opportunity. Really, concept number one seemed to have the most legs and sort of kind of a combination hybrid. General strong support for upgraded lagoon, shade, lawn events, picnic, dining. Next. So looking at this space, 3 of the main things that we heard were flexible open space, accessible, open to the public year round, and a place for all ages. And as Greg mentioned earlier, this is not a shovel-ready plan. What we're looking at is really more of an idea of what amenities and what things people would like to see when the plan becomes shovel-ready. When the RFP goes out, it's we want to have open space. We'd like to have a direct path to the ocean front. We'd like to redo the fence boundary. It's these type of boxes that whoever the consultant team is that finally designs this space, we want to give them a checkbox that they can start looking at. Next. So the Harbor Hub area, what we heard in regards to the hand launch. So one of the main things we heard were restroom facilities, zero depth entryway, and how would we be able to create this space? So we kind of developed a little bit of a plan with a floating dock, an area for a harbor patrol boat to be able to pull up into it, and really trying to look at separating personal SUPs and hand launch vehicles. How do we create that separation from the boat launch area? And what does that look like? So we created the idea of a sandy lagoon for staging, somewhere where people could actually stage their SUPs or stage their kayaks to get into that zero depth entry. But we also wanted to make sure we provided an ADA accessible ramp and path to the boat launch. So this is sort of the iteration you're looking at here. Next. Again, similar to what I just spoke about, ADA dockway, floating dock, sandy area for staging, zero depth, safety, signage, really creating a waterfront open space node. Next. So the sports fishing pier, if you've been down to the harbor recently, you know it's not something you're walking on today. It's not something you've probably walked onto in the last year. So when are we going to be able to walk on the sports fishing pier? And when that does get remade, when that does get redone, what do we want to see there? We want to see restaurants. We want to see a potential for dock and dine. We want to see open space out at the edge of the pier. This is sort of what we heard from everybody. And this is how the numbers ranked. Next. Similar to kind of looking at what amenities could be there and what this space could look like, one of the interesting portions with the dock and dine is where does that go? How do we set that up? How do people access it? And so we have Anchor QEA, our waterfront consultants on board, and they're helping to design sort of how this could work. Will there be 5 slips? Will there be 3? That's not necessarily the question for today. The idea is that there wants to be some type of dock and dine. There wants to be open space. There wants to be restaurants. There wants to be a feeling of space that people want to come to, people want to enjoy, right at the base of this hub area. Next. As I said earlier, this was something that we hadn't necessarily foreseen. I mean, everyone likes education. Everyone likes to be able to broadcast what we do at the oceanfront, what we do at the coast, whether it's education in sailing, whether it's education in what waterfront amenities are, whether it's education in the ocean, whatever it may happen to be, we felt a very strong desire from the community to do some type of an educational space. Next. So looking at where this could be situated, where it could be, again, not looking necessarily at how big it is or what the use is, the area that is currently the space for Joe's Crab Shack is a very good spot that ties itself right into that same Harbor Hub area, can be connected with Seaside Lagoon. There can be ways that both of them can feed off of each other. And it's also on more like what we're calling the quieter side of the entry space of that hub area, where you've got the boat launch and you've got more active motorboats coming in from the boat launch area. You kind of have that sports fishing pier that separates the SUPs and the softer traffic, which will allow kind of an open lagoon space for any type of educational opportunities. So again, sizing, siting, just saying there's a need for an educational space. Next. Coastal, next. So this is the boat launch. What we heard is there has to be a boat launch. This was a whole thing of what we were looking into. We were told in one of our meetings that if the only thing that comes out of this is locating the boat launch and where it would be, this would be considered a win for the project. So we took a lot of importance as to where this could be situated, whether it was Mole C or Mole D or where would it best fit. Next. So one of the things that we also looked at was the entryway to the boat launch, whether it wants to come off of Pacific and go through what is now Captain Kidd's and kind of provide a direct through lane, or whether it wants to come down and come off of Harbor. One of the things we really wanted to make sure is that that queuing lane is not backing up Harbor Boulevard traffic throughout all times of the day. So through some creative restriping, through some good signage, we're able to bring the queuing lane into the parking lots, run it down, and directly connect to the boat launch. The other thing that we heard, which we found interesting, was we were asked to ask the question about the existing boat hoist. And roughly 50% of the people that use the boat hoist today said that even with a new boat launch, they would still use the boat hoist. And whether it's because it's more accessible, whether it's harder for different people to utilize a hand launch themselves, or they don't have the right equipment, that boat hoist at this point in time is still slated to remain. Next. See kind of all the amenities and pieces there, sort of what we're looking at. This kind of gives a good view also as well as to how we're utilizing that sports fishing pier as a way to separate the hand launch and personal watercraft from the motorcraft with the boat launch. Next. Commercial space, International Boardwalk. International Boardwalk was one of the first places that I walked when we were invited to come down, and I realized this has such potential. It's really a great space, just the feel of it, the location, and it just, to be honest, it feels like it's been left alone for too long. It feels like something wants to happen. And we heard safety, security. Next. We heard that it's really the centerpiece of this commercial zone. How are you going to drive visitors and tourists here? Where are they really going to go? People from out of town. They're going to experience International Boardwalk. You want them to walk away from that space thinking, wow, I can't wait to go back. I can't wait to bring family and friends here, right? So the thought process that we've heard from the city is there's already work in play to do the upper area for a commercial dining deck area, similar to like what was placed out there during COVID, but better, a little more permanent. The idea to separate bikes and pedestrians up at the top is always a win-win, as long as you can keep bikes and pedestrians separate and then keep that space clean. Renovating the asphalt boardwalk that's there right now and the existing seawall, which we know is not right-sized for sea level rise, kind of looking at that as maybe that's an opportunity to extend the deck a little bit, to extend maybe a little bit of an overlook off of that pathway, kind of keeping people off and separated. Next. So when we asked about the International Boardwalk, it was great. It was, do you like the components? What do you guys think? And just overwhelmingly, yes, yes, yes. That's all we heard was, please just do something down there, right? Next. So again, similar to like what we talked about, this is just sort of a zoom in of that plan. A little bit of the additions that you see here also are the Dinghy Docks, a couple added Dinghy Dock locations for people to be able to reach from the mooring field and kind of come in to utilize the International Boardwalk spaces. Next. The natural space. So here is a rendering of what Moonstone Park could conceivably look like in this plan. One of the elements that we were very clearly designated with is a open space for a 110-foot radius for the choppers to land. The fire department needs access there. And so how do you balance the Lanakila Club with the open space, with the public's desire to use it? And I'm sure the Lanakila Club members in here, this is probably one of the areas you guys are most interested in. Next. So what we heard was we want to create somewhere where it's memorable, somewhere where it's more passive use, somewhere that's almost a little bit more local feeling. Something I've joked about with the city and people there, and I didn't find it at the Beach Life Festival, but there is free parking in that location if you know right where to park. But it's a good space, but even people that were on the city staff didn't really know that you could go there. And it's partially the way the parking's set up, the way everything is, and that's we'll get into connectivity in just a little bit. Next. So what we looked at were concept one, enhancing the existing park, concept two, outrigger expansion, minimal park, as small as it could be with dry boat storage, or including kind of a public hand launch and outrigger expansion. And what we kind of found out is that of the areas that we're looking at, it's really more of the enhancing the existing park that people really wanted to see. And so working with the working group, of which Moses is a member, harbor commissioners are a member, the city are members, it was how do we find that balancing act between what wants to be there. Next. And sort of the end result was the Lanakila has kind of the space that they can use right now, similar. And then there's a possibility for, obviously, the number one new amenity there is the new restroom. The possibility, if there's some creative fencing that's there that can open up, there could be some staging area when the park's not used. And then one of the things that we added was kind of an overlook deck, somewhere which could have either picnic tables or Adirondack chairs, kind of really over top of that riprap, enhancing your viewing experience so that people can watch what either the outriggers are doing, watch boating coming in. Really, one of the things we find as landscape architects is people love to watch other people. People love to relax and see things going on. And then we also kind of diligently took, where you see that number 2 right up there, that little corner. We've seen people sitting out there with their chairs, with their picnic baskets, and why not kind of extend and make that whole area a space that's kind of at the end of that parking. Next. Harbor connectivity. Next. So I'm going to kind of, you see the overview right here, which is showing pedestrian paths, bike paths, nodes, and I'm going to kind of take you through each of those a little bit individually. And just be aware, it may sound like I'm going fast, but it's only really because there's a lot more information that's behind all of this, and we really want to get to your questions and get into that as well. Next. So key takeaways, what we heard, balance between pedestrians, bicyclists, boaters. We heard make the nodes artful, but not too cluttered with attention. Preference to keep lanes open, safe. How do we keep things consistent throughout the harbor? Next. So pedestrian paths. What you're looking at here are the 2 different types of paths. There's the waterfront promenade, which will really link all of these elements. And how do you get someone to have a good mental map of where they are, where they should walk? What keeps you from going into the parking lots? How do you get from Seaside Lagoon to International Boardwalk safely? How do you traverse this whole waterfront promenade? It's really creating a line right up at the front that's very easy to follow. And then how do you get to that waterfront promenade? So that's what we're calling these inside paths, which you see in the magenta. The connections kind of from Harbor Boulevard and really making it very clear, wherever you're at in Harbor Boulevard, how can you get down to the waterfront? It's going to be signage. It's going to be visual wayfinding, whether it's trees, whether it's physical signs, whether it's pathway improvements. All of these are elements that create wayfinding experiences to take you from harbor down to that promenade path and distribute people throughout the whole entire site. Next. What happens when you come down to this promenade path? What does it look like? What are you walking towards? What are your gateways? What are your nodes? Where are your stopping points? What draws you in? And that's really what a node is. It kind of takes you from where you are, brings you to where you want to be, and then lets you know where you want to go. Next. So bicycles. One of the things that we definitely heard a lot about is I'm a biker, the cars are in my way, or people are in my way, or where am I supposed to go? How am I supposed to get there? And while a lot can be improved through signage and a lot can be improved through kind of creating clear separation spaces, it's again, trying to get people to understand where they're gonna go. Where are the nodes that the bicyclists are gonna be able to access through either shared spaces or sharrows or different lane stripings that allow you to take your bike down to the waterfront and actually put them in a nice safe space as you walk around. Next. Feedback, community comments. I hope I didn't take tons of time. I was told I should take probably less than half an hour. I don't know where we're at. It's not like I haven't practiced. But no, it's really good to see. It's really good to see everyone out. I mean, this has been such a fascinating project to be a part of. And it's one of those things that empowers us as designers, knowing that we're not telling what we want. We're really out here trying to show what we've heard and how do we best combine everything that we've heard into a cohesive overall plan that everyone will be happy with at the end of the day. And with that, I mean, I can turn it over to Greg and we can start taking comments. Again, go to the next slide. So what we're looking at here is 3 sections of comments, just about half an hour each. And obviously we can take more depending on how things go, if things go less or more. But we're looking at trying to take comments in subject matter number 1, which is really the public parks and realms. So Seaside Lagoon, Moonstone Park, International Boardwalk, the Pier, those kinds of public realm elements for this first half hour. Then getting into questions about boating, whether it's the hand launch, the boat launch, and then really overall connectivity and sort of general questions and sort of a catch-all at the end for anything that didn't come through. So my understanding, next, is that we're looking at, I think, oh, you can just leave that one up actually. Okay. Is that we're looking at kind of piggybacking between questions on Zoom and questions in the audience. So I see there's a gentleman with his hand up first, and then maybe second, and I'll let the city staff kind of, I believe we have a microphone to pass around.
Okay, well, I actually want to talk to all three, so we're going to go through, there's going to be a segmented, we're now going to phase 2, or?
Yeah, we'll be going to phase 2 in about half an hour or so.
Okay, can you bring up the slide on Seaside Lagoon?
Yep. And so what we're really trying to do also as they come through will be collating questions. We're sure there's some people will be asking the same question. So if you hear a question from somebody that's similar, you know.
Yeah, my understanding was this was for comments too. I don't really have questions, but I have comments. So that's hand launch. Can we go to the Seaside? Okay, so first off, I mean, overall, I'm okay with it. It doesn't seem like the park grew at all. I was hoping we'd get some chance to grow it. It looks like you took away on the rocks, but I'm not sure what 13 is there, flexible open space. I don't agree with bifurcating the facility. If any of you use that during the summer, there are busloads of kids that come in. And if you look at the statistics from the city, this is the most used park in the summer, with 60,000 guests over a very short period of time, and over 1,300 on peak days. So when you cut down where people can sit around to watch their kids in the water feature, you're cutting down the desirability of that artificially by putting a path down the middle, and people are getting too far away from their kids. And I assume that path is open all the time, and so that green space isn't even really connected to Seaside Lagoon anymore. And I don't think that's the intent of Measure C, but I also think that we would be we would be pushing people away from using that park from the number that use it today. Secondly, having, you know, I'm a surfer, and I understand, and I'm an engineer. I've looked at at wave pool down there since Dive and Surf proposed it years ago. That would be a very, very small wave pool. So it really it's not something you're going to be able to surf on or anything like that. Plus, they're very high maintenance. And if you're charging for surfers to come in, you can only handle a couple surfers at a time. If it's just a play pool for kids, we have the beach for going, you know, into waves. The draw of Seaside Lagoon is that people don't have to worry about waves and tides and the kids getting knocked over, and that it's a controlled depth. So I think a wave pool is costly and unnecessary. I do think integrating a lap pool somehow would be well accepted. So I think those are my main points on Seaside Lagoon. Can we go to the hand launch facility?
Well, do we want to do the hand launch after in boating too? Or keep through?
Well, I thought this was all part of the first. Okay, so hand launch. I don't want to get into the details of the design. I think, you know, zero depth entry is required, and I think we probably have to have something for ADA. So overall, I'm okay with the concept. I know we're not going to engineer into the details. This is a big picture. But if you don't have vehicular access, which I saw elements that would block vehicular access, you're essentially driving people away from using it. They're not gonna walk it all the way down that path you have there. They're not gonna walk it around. You will be driving people away. A cart system's not gonna work. So unless you can drive up there and drop off your stuff, people aren't gonna use it. And that's if you look at design guidelines for hand launch facilities, it talks about access, close access, and it recommends when you can't park next to the facility that you have to have a drop off. And so I think we're doing a disservice. We would cut down use there, and people might be wanting to use then the boat launch, the regular boat launch, because it's more accessible to them. And that's exactly the opposite of why we split these facilities. Okay, next, what's the next? The sport fishing pier, I think the L's on the wrong side. I think you want to keep the boating traffic away from the paddlers. And this looks like you're putting the bigger boats on the north side. I know we don't want to get into the details of design here, but that seems like a flaw there. I would put the dinghies on the other side and maybe SUPs coming in there. And I don't know why we have grass out on a pier. That just seems like a waste of space. Fishermen will use that facility. They've used it since that's been there. It's a great place for kids to go out and fish. Next. Keep going. The education center, I think that's the right place. I don't have any comments on that. Okay, and the boat ramp, I like this location for the boat ramp. We can work the details of the traffic. That is certainly one solution there. So I'm good with the boat launch there. Is that all that's in the A thing, or is there more?
I think that's it, that's in that hub area.
Okay, so
Unless you wanted to talk on Moonstone Park. Unless you wanted to talk on Moonstone.
I thought that was C.
That's part of the public area.
That's part of A?
Yeah.
Okay, let's
You
go.
are, with the boat launch, A was public areas and open space, B was boat launch, and then C
Oh, okay,
is
so
connectivity.
I've already
So you're
blown
already
your-
all over the place.
Your
It's fine.
criteria.
It's fine.
Okay, let's go to Moonstone Park then.
Get it all out now.
What the heck? Okay, so I think, I don't think survey should be how we're driving this thing because it's random input, and we've had 20 years of input on this. And I've been part of that since 2002, so there's tons of data out there. Certainly support Lanakila being out there. It's a great club.
You even wore red tonight without knowing.
Pardon?
You even wore red tonight without knowing.
And one of the amenities there, though, that their members enjoy is being able to store their own OC1s, their own personal outrigger canoes there. And I think that's missing for other users. There's one commercial place where you can put your SUPs, and then there's a yacht, the yacht club across the way has, if you join the yacht club, you can store stuff. But what we don't have is what most harbors have, and that's places to store small sailboats. And I'm afraid we've lost a generation of sailors because we've made it difficult for entry-level people to get into the sport. Right now, the only way you get into the sport is joining a yacht club, which isn't cheap, or getting a slip, which isn't cheap. And so we're driving people away, and especially in the South Bay and LA area, we don't have, I've been stationed, I was in the military station in Florida. This area is so compact, you don't have room to store a small sailboat at your home. Most of our facilities are condos, small 2-on-1 lots. You don't have room to put a small sailboat in your driveway because you'll block your neighbor's access. And we can't park them on the street, and you can't park them in your backyard. So by not addressing some type of storage for small boats, I think we're continuing this, driving people away from sailing without having to spend a lot of money. And not just sailing, but small motorboats and things like that. So I think we need a small boat dry storage area somewhere in the harbor. I'm not saying it's here, but it's missing. You have one concept for this where you showed some. If you're going to put it on this side, I think it should be on the other side so you can get it to some dock where you could launch. I don't think you want to share it with, and I don't think Lanakila would want to share it, and the engineering for getting boats down there would be difficult. We had an earlier plan where you could take it down the existing slipway, and I think that's more viable. So I think push to the other side may be better. So I think, so while I'm here, the commercial, I feel like we kind of put some paint on what's already there. I think we need more dramatic change there. So I think there's a phase A and a phase B. We should certainly beautify it now. But while we're raising up for sea level rise, we should be looking at revectoring that whole thing. Right now, when we talk to restaurants, they don't like the fact that they like upstairs dining for the summer, but they don't like, they can't just go up there through the restaurant. They got to come out, walk all the way around, go up, and then if they get beer orders or something, they got to go all the way back down and get it. So I think we need to rethink that whole area and make it easy and actually tear up the concrete. There's no good air conditioning in those facilities. They can't modify them because it's thick concrete. There's not even communications there that are sufficient to serve. So I think that's a scrap and redo. And I think if we can integrate the second story correctly, it could be a year-round use, not just a summer use. And we can get sufficient sizes to make it more equitable for the restaurants that are there. And then we totally ignore, one of the big things about the Center Cal plan was that everybody seemed to agree on was a food court or lack of a better term.
Market hall,
Pardon?
essentially a market hall.
Market hall. Well, I will tell you, I was on all those. The one thing people seemed to gel on was a market hall. We have the opportunity to do that, where R10 and paddle houses all the way out to Captain Kids. And then we can move some of these restaurants back without losing them. And we get something to draw people from the pier. the pier all the way over into the harbor and a reason to walk International Boardwalk if we do that. And you can make it 2 stories high so they can watch boats launching, and they're not taking up waterfront space that's better for recreational use. So those are my recommendations.
Thank you. All great comments. I do want to get some more people involved. Thank you so much. We're going to go over to Zoom land and get somebody who's raising their hand, I believe. Jeff, go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and speak.
Yeah, Jeff Gilbert, Redondo Beach. I agree with the last speaker with regards to dry boat storage. We certainly lack that right now, and I think it is something that requires an awful lot more emphasis to be put on. You know, if you are I would like to have a boat. I can't store one here at my home or out front, and there's really no place to put it. So if there was dry boat storage nearby, I would be more than happy to get a boat and put it there, and I know my entire family would like that. That's what Redondo Beach at one time had, where you could launch boats on the beach. You can't do that anymore. So rules and regulations have driven boat owners to just move away from this area. So that's my primary comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Let's go back to in person.
Hi, my name is Kathy Gould. I'm a Redondo Beach resident. I'd like to talk about Seaside Lagoon and make a plea to do something other than a surf wave pool. I agree 100% with the comments of the gentleman earlier. But what this community really lacks is a public swimming pool, a lap pool, a lane pool. We have the pool at the high school, which is great, but it's only accessible to the public in very limited hours. Those of us who are swimmers, I'm an ocean swimmer and a pool swimmer, travel to Manhattan Beach, we travel to Torrance. We have to either pay an expensive membership at the Bay Club, but we don't have access to something that I think is a basic amenity. I've had the privilege of living in not only here, but in Santa Barbara, in Kentucky, in New Zealand, in Australia, and in Canada. And in every one of those communities, there are public pools. In Australia, every neighborhood has a public pool. In Canada, every small town has a public pool that's pride of place. And we have nothing. And I venture to say the swimming community is probably larger than either the outrigger. No offense, Lanakila. I think you guys are great, and I'd love to join you at some point. But larger than the outrigger canoe community, and actually probably larger than the skateboarding community as well. And I think it would be really worth our while to think about some kind of amenity that would provide that access. Thank you.
Okay, we're going right back to Zoom. We have Wayne. Wayne, go ahead and unmute yourself and speak.
Thank you. My name is Wayne Craig. One of the things I would comment that Mr. Light had mentioned as well, the International Boardwalk really is one of the underutilized sections of the whole kind of proposed upgrades. One of the big concerns is the fact that, obviously it floods now. And with the comment that he made too about the market hall, I must say, actually, that's actually a very accurate statement that most of the people who looked at the Center Hall project actually felt that the market hall concept was a good idea. I was one of them. If they would have just stayed with that, I probably wouldn't have gotten involved as they had in the whole overall project. But one thing I think it should be clarified with the market hall is that a lot of the residents that were concerned about it were afraid it would be too tall and too big. What they had proposed was quite large and would have blocked a lot of views for a lot of the existing homeowners nearby. So if you are going to do a market hall concept, maybe have it spread out lower. As Jim mentioned, it can go from where the paddle house is probably to where Captain Kids, as long as you don't go too high, so it wouldn't impair the homeowners that actually live in the area right now. I think it would make some sense. And the comments about the Moonstone Park, I think were accurate as well too. I think we have to be kind of careful in how we carve it up, because if it's dominated, I mean, it's a park a lot of people don't realize, and I think Lanakila does have a presence there, and it's a great location. but expanding it too large would then take away from the rest of the public to have access to it. So I think there's a balance act we have to figure out that works best for both. And finally, just connecting everything just makes a lot more sense. The biggest complaint that I always hear from people when they go down there, the whole area is just fragmented. And I wonder, I think about the International Boardwalk, having talked to a lot of the businesses there, having some way of having the individual restaurateurs to be able to access from their restaurants to go up directly to where their seating areas would make a lot more sense. And I agree with Jim. I don't know what you could do with that existing system now. It's just it's a concrete bunker that was originally built for boat storage. And it's not really practical for restaurateurs to be able to bring food orders and drink orders to people above without having to walk like 100 yards on each delivery. It's just not practical. So that's something that will require some forethought and some design. Anyway, that's all the comments I had.
Great, thank you, thank you. Back to in person right over here.
My name is Al Cheng. I represent Lanakila Outrigger Canoe Club. My job tonight, as I was informed, the public does not know much about the Outrigger Club, which I'm starting to find out is not true. So anyway,
Do we have a second mic, maybe?
okay. How do we get rid of this?
Does mine turn off?
Okay. So anyway, I'm supposed to tell everybody who and what we are. Basically, we are. I think it's a proximity to speakers. Oh, maybe. Okay, how's this? Can we hear it? Talk loud. Okay. So basically, we are a sports club, amateur, strictly amateur. Anyone can join our club. Everybody in the public is invited. And we have somehow become one of the top outrigger clubs in continental United States. I say that because I know the record of our club. We have a very goal-orientated program, and yet our biggest thing is, are we having fun yet? You know, that's what we do, and we are the envy of all the clubs around here. But that's not to brag or anything. I'm just telling you who we are and what we do. We've somehow become a family-orientated club. My son is the head coach now. My other son that came to me just out of the blue is another coach. We have women that started years ago, became teenagers, were recruited by UCLA, and then went to the Olympics as a rower and won gold medals. We had another kid at 16, coming out of the club, went to the Australian Olympics, did not win a gold medal, but was chosen to carry the American flag in the opening ceremony.
They can't hear you.
They can't hear me.
Have you put it closer?
Okay, so anyway,
Closer?
show me how. Okay, right here? Right. Okay. So I hope you guys can hear me now. But anyway, we've become a family orientated club. Most of the kids you see down there were recruited by other kids, by other family members, by grandfathers, by grandmothers. And it just went on and on. I founded the club in 1970, which makes it 52 years old. At this point in my life, I am happy to see that we're not a giant club with, trainers and all that excessive accessories. We're just a normal club that worked real hard. A normal club that's been around. We don't want anything special. All we want is to be recognized that we take care of almost all of the kids that come through Redondo. Well, that's not saying that much, but we do have a special reputation with all the kids. A lot of them have become lifeguards, have become whatever, and very successful. So anyway, that's my spiel for tonight, and I thank you very much.
We can stay in person one more time. We're going to go to Zoom after this next one.
Okay. Thanks very much for allowing us to provide feedback and input to the amenity plan. My name's Brian Mitchell, and I'm a member of Lanakila. Red shirt and all. We respectfully request that you provide the following 2 items to the council in the final report, and I'll be very brief. 1, an improved outrigger launch dock, and 2, increase of additional footage for the outrigger clubs. And let me briefly elaborate. When Chevron earmarked $2.4 million for improvements on Mole B, they had intended these funds to be for both Moonstone Park and the outrigger facilities. Specifically, they intended improvements to the existing launch dock. This item was included in the city's administrative report from 2012, where scope items were identified. The second item we'd like you to include is a very modest increase to our current outrigger site. Our current site is approximately 12,750 square foot, or 18% of Mole B. We request an additional 2,250 square feet, which is only 3% more coverage on Mole B. On our small footprint, we currently have 23 45-foot outrigger canoes, 150 1- and 2-man canoes that are used for training, and 2 40-foot trailers used to transport canoes to races up and down the Southern California coast. This very modest amount of additional space will allow the outrigger clubs to meet current and future needs. As part of the efficient utilization of the site, we respectfully also request storage to be attached to a restroom for maintenance and safety equipment. Lastly, we are in agreement with the amenity plan's recommendations for restroom, showers, seating, and site improvements. We thank you for your consideration of these items and for their inclusion in the final report.
Thank you so much. Okay, next one's going to go back to Zoom. Nikki, go ahead and unmute yourself and speak.
Thank you for taking my comments. I also am an ocean enthusiast and a swimmer, and I agree that there's a great lack of swimming facilities available in the neighborhood other than the ocean, but the ocean's not always conducive to that. And there's been a discussion on the chat about swimming pools, and I'd like to bring out that there was an effort a couple of years ago by the World Open Water Swimming Association to bring the 10K Olympics to Redondo Beach. And I think that would, instead of Long Beach, and I think that would be another pearl or advantage for Redondo Beach if that happens. But I strongly support the use of a lap pool in the facility or in the area. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. We'll go back to in person if we have one. Is anybody queued up?
Thank you. My name is Rick Crump. I'm just going to go on to the lap pool subject. I've been coaching, well, I moved here in '96. And when I came out from Virginia, the first thing I looked for was an aquatic center. And I really couldn't find one except the 3 lanes over at the Sports Center, which is now the Bay Club, which is now the... Anyway, so I started the Master Swim Club there, the 3 lanes. And someone said, well, there's an aquatic center over in Torrance. I looked at the plunge. Not to sound like a broken record, but we do need a year-round facility of lap swimming in Redondo Beach. There is the high school. It's a golden opportunity. Seaside Lagoon is seasonal. If you put a lap swimming, it will be used greatly, morning, noon, night. If it gets put there, I'll coach for free. Put that on record.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're giving.
Put that on record. That's how much I want a swimming pool in that area. Anyway, enough said, but love to see a pool down there. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Just as a general warning, we have about 5 minutes left on topic 1. That doesn't mean we're not going to keep accepting comments. If for whatever reason we move on to the next section and we haven't heard from you, if you're in person, go ahead and write down your comment on a card and we'll accept it and take it in for record. If you're on Zoom, go ahead and type that question into the comments section and we'll record it there. Our job here is to collect as much information as possible. Just because we're going to 2 doesn't mean we're not going to hear you out. Go ahead and submit that to us when you can.
Just to be clear, that's also the reason that I'm not responding. I'm here to absorb as well.
So do we have someone in Zoom land? Diana and John, go ahead and unmute yourselves and speak.
Hi, this is Diana Mann. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for letting me speak. I wanted to just, remind everyone what we went through the last time with the Center Cal development. Most of the people in Redondo Beach, I'm not just talking about people down here by the water, but in North Redondo as well, were under the assumption that the developer at that time was going to be rebuilding and revitalizing the pier. And they were disappointed, not most, but a lot of people were disappointed when the project failed because they really thought they were going to get a new pier out of it. And I just want to remind people that what the developer chose to do instead of rebuilding the pier and doing all the things that we're talking about tonight was to take that big open parking lot there next to Ruby's and R10 and Samba's and build a lot of big tall buildings, which was not what people wanted. So I'm very positive here, and I'm thinking this is great that we're talking about redesigning the pier area, the boardwalk and all of that. That's wonderful. But let's just back up for a second. Not everyone was on board with the market hall. The market hall was going to be 37 feet high, and it was going to take out the views from Zuliger Park and all the residents that surround Zuliger Park. And we fought really, really hard to stop that market hall. So I just wanted to comment on that to Jim Light's point, that the market hall was not something everyone gelled on. Certainly not the residents that lived around here that were going to be losing their views to it. And someone on this chat tonight has said that the old arcade would make an excellent market hall, and I think that's a very good idea. Anyway, thank you so much for letting me speak, and I'm looking forward to the designs. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Going back to in person, I do see a hand raised, a couple of them actually.
Thank you. Carl Ellett, 30-year resident, boat owner, Lanakila coach, interested party. So I want to echo another comment that was made earlier about using surveys to select options. And I think you really have to get down to what is the communal value of each of those items and get away from just raising hands. And the reason I say that, especially as we look at a 7% return on wanting to expand Lanakila, I want to add a little bit of depth to what that item means to the community. We're in the business of transforming lives. I mean, I don't want to minimize, the swimming options and other bike access and those things that are necessary. But I want people to understand that we take anyone from 10 years old to 85 years old, and we change their lives. Apart from just the routine year to year of shedding thousands of pounds, we also take future leaders and we sculpt them. We take people that have lost their way and physically and mentally, and we provide them with coaching, environment, competitive sports, which research shows that extends lives in mental health. And so just to add a little bit of richness for what we do, we've raised we've raised over $100,000 for local charities. We've partnered with Blue Zones. We've been active members of the community giving back. And so part of what we need as a footprint to execute and give back to the community is your support. We need you to help reinforce that we not only have an immediate need, as Brian articulated, but the community has a need for us to survive. So as you go through the surveys and select, what's best, look at the depth, the richness of those offerings and how they're going to pay off in years and years to come, not just for the moment. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna stay in person. There was the lady in the back in the white sweater, all the way standing in the back. We're gonna go with. Oh, okay. You go ahead.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Cole. I am 12 years old. My family and I live in Redondo, and my whole family has been paddling with Lanakila at Moonstone Park since I was 8. I love that Redondo has a place for me and my friends to get on the water and outrigger paddle. Right now, I attend 3 practice groups and love each one for different reasons. I train and race with the Keikis, which are kids my age, and I have made a lot of friends. I train and race with my brother and cousin at juniors, which are teenagers and high school kids. I also get to train and race with the adults at Lanakila. They help me coach, and they help coach me, and they have become great role models. Because of Lanakila, I have learned a lot about the ocean and am able to go to some really fun events and compete with my friends. When I was 9, I was able to steer a men's boat in the Iron Championship race, which was 5 miles. We were the 3rd traditional boat across the finish line. It was awesome. Last year, I was able to paddle the Catalina race with a mixed age team. I was the youngest at 11, and the oldest paddler was 71. The Catalina race was 32 miles. I am speaking here today because my friends and I hope that we can get the stairs at Moonstone Park redone. It is really hard to get our boats up and down the stairs, and we would love it if they were safer for us and all the team to use. Thank you for giving me a place in Redondo to experience the water through Lanakila, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna wrap up topic area number 1 with this last in-person comment, and then we're gonna move on to topic number 2. But again, if you didn't get a chance to speak, go ahead and submit a formal card to us and we'll record it. Thank you so much.
My name is Miriam Kaufman-Nash. I've been living here for 28 years. And for 28 years, I've put in a request for a pool. It feels like we're either the pool or the boaters. And I'd like to think that we're all together. I'm not suggesting one over another, but I would like to reiterate the need for a lap pool. There is, in this community, there is not a single, considering seniors, looking at seniors, there's not one outdoor pool that has reasonable senior prices in Redondo. Yes, you can go to the Torrance Plunge, but there's nothing here. You can look at the Bay Club, you can look at any of the local places. It's quite expensive to be part of that. I would also like to say that if in fact, Coach, you do do some coaching. You have your first person signing up. And I do hope that we can do this and recognize that it's not just for seniors, it's from children on up, that there would be a tremendous use for a swim facility here, especially since the high school is really very limited to what access anybody has publicly. So I'd like to put in my 2 cents for a definite lap pool. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to transition to the next group here. So the next group is going to be comments that are related to the public boat launch, the hand launch, and the dinghy dock. If we've got someone on Zoom, I'd like to take one of them. They've been waiting for a little while.
Yeah, I see Jacob Mark, you've submitted through Q&A, but if you raise your hand, I can unmute you. Okay, I think you can go ahead now.
All right, guys, thanks. So yeah, my name is Jacob Mark. I used to own the sport fishing landing on the pier when it was on Polly's before we moved. So I've seen a lot of what works and doesn't work as far as that pier when it comes to Mother Nature. Big concerns I see with the current drawings, which I know are not final, would be the swell that we have, you know, when storms come in. That entire area is next to the mouth of the harbor, so we do get swell, small waves coming in then, and we do have a large surge, surge is the drop and rise of the tide within the harbor. We had to stop loading our massive 65 sport fishing boats on that pier due to surge and tide. So putting a dock there that's going to move and float with the harbor and have people trying to park in it seems very problematic, especially in the wintertime. Unless you were to put, say, another mini break wall in front of that pier and across those docks to prevent the swell from hitting it. And then same thing goes for the hand launch. Currently, they take the hand launch out with a crane during the wintertime because the swell causes so much damage. And the new drawings I'm seeing are putting that hand launch not behind that little break wall jetty anymore. It's out into extended into the opening of the mouth of the harbor there. So it'll take even more damage. And I just see more problems arising. I think there's ways around it, but what I'm seeing now, I don't know how much of that's been taken into consideration.
Great, thank you. Do we have anybody in person that wants to speak on any of the subject matter in section 2?
There's a lady in blue in the back.
Right here. Hi, I'm Julie Call. I'm a member of King Harbor Yacht Club. I also am a founder and run Waterfront Education, and I'm a resident here in Redondo Beach. We put about 1,500 kids a year out on the water, so many of these topics are near and dear to our heart. I do want to echo the sentiment for the public pool. I've been wanting to teach swim lessons because it's such a fundamental piece of to everything we do with boating. So besides the lap pool, teaching swimming lessons would be great. When you're talking about the hand launch and public storage, dry storage, I think it's very critical in our harbor because we don't have community boating. So when we don't have community boating, we need a low-cost way for people to get addicted to the ocean and upgrade. Right now, we don't have a path. As Jim indicated, it's you go to the yacht club, but we don't have a place not only for stand-up paddleboards and outriggers and small whalers. I think it's super important that we acknowledge that there are stepping stones to getting to a big boat. And when you don't have dry storage, you don't have a pathway. So I think that's really important. And I agree that if you have dry storage, it should be by where you're doing the hand launch. And then to echo what the caller just was talking about, I totally agree with the surge, but I don't think they're engineered properly. You're talking about fixed docks versus docks that have pilings and go up and down with the tides. So it might be something that just needs to be reworked a little bit to deal with that part of the area, because it does get a little surgy, but the waves tend to wrap around and not necessarily go all the way across. So there's different types of surge that happens in the harbor. And then what else do I want to talk about? International Boardwalk. Sport fishing pier. very, very important for my programs. I miss that pier. That is a gateway to people falling in love with the ocean. When a 5-year-old catches a fish, it's amazing. And the community that was there was, we kind of have like micro communities in the harbor. Some are art riggers, some are, I have a sailboat, some are fishing. And I think that's a really important aspect that we have lost right now. Because trying to take kids to the big pier to fish is very complicated. So I think that's really important to maintain that. The dinghy dock, we've needed one for years. I think in general, more bathrooms, public bathrooms, well placed throughout the harbor is important. There are little pockets, but in between, there's not a lot. And as we walk kids back and forth on the harbor, through the harbor, it is a bit of a challenge. I'm really happy to see everyone who came out. I'm used to Harbor Commission meetings where there's like 3 people. So thank you everyone for coming out. Thank you for listening to our comments. Keep on doing what you guys are doing. And I'm happy to pass the mic. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we don't have anybody with their hands raised in Zoom land, so we can stay in person if we got somebody right up front here. And please, let's keep to topic 2, public boat launch, hand launch, dinghy dock.
All right, thank you. My name is Lee Collar. I'm a Redondo Beach resident. I'm a tenant of King Harbor Marina, also a member of King Harbor Yacht Club. I'm here, I really want to speak in favor, first of all, of my friend Julie Call. I support her in her marine education program, and it's great that we're putting in a marine education facility here. I'd really like to talk about dry boat storage. It's something that is greatly missing within King Harbor. Really, the only dry boat storage available right now is if you're a King Harbor Yacht Club member, and even then, it's a year's wait to get into the yard there. So we have it. There's a list of 40 members waiting for dry boat storage. And I can't imagine how many people who don't want to join the yacht club for one reason or another that would love to have a place to store a boat. We've already heard a couple of calls about that. I do note that the Coastal Act and Tidelands Trust direct that increased recreational boating of coastal waters shall be encouraged by developing, among other things, dry storage areas, increasing public launching facilities, and providing additional berthing spaces. If you go about the marina, there is a waiting list for large slips. There is no waiting list for little tiny slips because, quite frankly, the people that have boats that small can't afford the prices that the marinas want to charge, and that they would all like to be able to upgrade those slips to larger slips. But in the Coastal Commission will not let them because they see it as a loss of an amenity with no mitigation. If you add that dry boat storage there, that provides mitigation, which provides greater revenue for the marinas, which in turn provides greater revenue for the city. And then you've got even greater revenue because the city will get revenue from that dry boat storage. As far as dinghy docks go, the more dinghy docks, the better. Right now, our harbor is not really a boater-friendly harbor. I came back from Catalina this weekend on Monday afternoon, and I noticed that there was less than a handful of boats on the public moorings. And there's really, I know there's one place that they can tie up to, but if they want to, head down to the Chart House or walk down to Hermosa or something, of course, we want to stay in Redondo, but I'll give them that option. There's really only one place for them, so the more dinghy docks, the better. The other thing I would add, which sort of is remember that the harbor amenities, harbor is for water access, and it's great to see all along Aquila here. I'm quite impressed, and they do a great job with the harbor, and so wherever we can put dry boat storage, both for mast up storage as well as for motorboats, power boats, and hand launch would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we can stay in person. Anybody want to raise their hand and talk on the subject matter from number 2? We'll check with Zoom one more time. Anything on Zoom?
Just raise your hand on Zoom if you'd like to comment on the boat facilities, public boat ramp, hand launch, or dinghy dock.
Okay, let's move on to section. Oh, we got somebody.
Can I just take a moment of your time? I'll make it kind of an extemporaneous comment here.
Hold on. You gotta wait for the microphone.
Yeah, okay. Hi, my name's Denny Brown. I'm a Torrance resident, but I live in Redondo Beach. I'm a tenant in the marina and a member of King Harbor Yacht Club. One of the things that I've noticed here is that 5 or 6 people have brought up dry boat storage, and you don't even have it on your chart. Under boat facilities, you don't even have dry boat storage up there. So this is a request that you add it. That's all I got.
Sorry about that.
That one I can answer is we do have a section on dry boat storage that we're currently working on. We have a gentleman with his hand up.
Yeah, we can stay in person.
Hi, Andy Beggs. I am director at the King Harbor Youth Foundation, which runs the youth sailing programs out of the King Harbor Yacht Club. And I'm also on the board of the Yacht Club as well. Carrying on with the idea of dry boat storage, the other day, Monday, I was walking from the club over to Veterans Park to participate in the Memorial Day celebration at 1 o'clock, and happened to walk through the parking lot, the vast parking lot, the vast empty parking lot on the busiest day of the entire summer, probably, right in front of Ruby's. And it dawned on me that not only could we eventually have dry boat storage in Redondo Beach, we could have it now. We could create temporary dry boat storage in that parking lot that is currently essentially unused, because all dry boat storage is a parking lot for boats. So it's already striped, it already has entrances and exits, and the city could generate tens of thousands of dollars a month by even temporarily allowing dry boat storage in that giant parking lot. So I strongly encourage, for everyone's benefit, for the benefit of the maximizing the use of this harbor, to create as soon as possible dry boat storage. Thank you.
One more, okay.
Hi, Mark Hansen, a 60-year boater here in King Harbor and serving on the working committee. And I guess I, as a member of the committee, almost have to apologize for those who want dry boat storage. In retrospect, I probably just wasn't proactive about that. I knew we knew it. I'd been talking about it for 20 years, and I felt like I kind of said, oh God, I had to wake up and kind of bring the subject up to the committee and the consultants. Yeah, it's something we really do need to take a look at, and apologies to the public for kind of being slow on the committee to address this one. Previous speaker mentioned the Tidelands Act. We got ordered to put in the boat ramp after 50 years of not having one, when Coastal Commission realized we didn't have it, and they've ordered us, so we have to put it in. The same paragraph that identifies the need for the boat ramp, separated by a comma, says dry boat storage. So on any given Thursday, Coastal Commission can order us to put that in. I think we're smart to get in front of it, do our own design instead of having something foisted on us. I went back and checked some of my old notes, and the California Boating Facilities Needs Assessment estimated 48,000 to 77,000 new storage spaces needed over a 20-year period. So you can see why the Coastal Act would be highly motivated and happy if we put some dry boat storage in. As you heard earlier, the only private storage in the harbor currently has a waiting list for 40, and I looked it up, there were over 60 folks waiting for large slips. So if we could get some dry boat storage in, Coastal Commission would probably let us take out some small slips and build those bigger slips that we have a real strong need for. So at any rate, I'm not going to make any specific recommendations tonight, but obviously it's just an issue. I think we're a little behind, and we got to get caught up and address it somehow. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we do have some contributions from Zoom.
Yes, Jeff, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, the comments about dry boat storage is great. When you have your boat in dry storage, then the next question is, how do I get it into the water? So that goes hand in hand with facility. For example, if I had a sailboat with a mast, I could not use the hoist, I'd have to have some way of putting it into the water. Besides that, obviously the boat launch would be a option for that location. So a lot of these things have to come together to make them all work. So keep that in mind as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have somebody else?
Jeff, it looks like you raised your hand again, but I'm guessing that might be a mistake. Yep, okay.
Okay, anybody in person that still wants to speak on topic 2 here? All right. Seeing none, let's move on to topic 3, which is really harbor connectivity, all those pedestrian paths, bicycle paths, vehicle access routes. How do we get to these amenities? That's the topic at hand here. And then anything just general. Sure.
Go back. One more. There you go. That's kind of got everything on it.
All right, I have a general question. Sorry about that.
I bet your voice carries, but just a little bit.
All right, my name's Jerry Marcel. I'm a 44-year tenant in the marina. Only 20 years with Lana Keela, though. Anyway, my general question, I own a couple businesses in Redondo Beach, and I paid, over $400,000 in taxes to the city each year. I haven't seen a dollar get down to doing an improvement on Mole B. You've been 52 years, Al? Have you seen them spend a dollar to improve Mole B in 52 years? Okay, well, I want to piggyback off this gentleman's comment earlier that we have been coming to these meetings for 20 years, at least I have. And I guess my general question is, what are the odds of anything happening from this? Do we have funding for this? What's the length of the process? Do you have any, I don't know if you can answer the question. I realize these kinds of processes can take 20, 30, 40, 50 years, but we're curious, or I'm curious. I think other people are too. I think some of us are tired of coming to these meetings, are we? Yeah, so, I mean, if I have other comments, some specific ones. I don't want to waste anybody's time because I'd rather find out where we're going with this in terms of financing it, because if the money's not there, which it hasn't been for 20 years, even though we keep having these, what's the point?
That one I can partially answer. And there is an implementation section that will be included in the draft report, which will go up in front of public hearings, which will explain and get into a little bit more detail on items that we see conceivably RFPs going out in the next 0 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, and then 10 to 20 years, along with funding possibilities for that. And the city could probably talk more on what's currently in capital improvement programs or already ready to be funded out. That's not.
It's a really good answer. We're dissecting this into short-term possibilities, mid-term, and long-term, right? In this case, you've gone through a lot. There's been a lot of these exercises before. I totally get that. I think the transition and the switch, the pivot that you're seeing now is, the last development was a private commercial enterprise that the amenities would get built along with all this other commercial stuff. This is a pivot to the city taking charge and saying, no, we're just going to take care of our own infrastructure, take care of the citizen needs. And then, if redevelopment spurs because of that, that's a good thing. And we'll deal with that on a case-by-case basis when they come in. Those will get reviewed individually, but we're taking care of our own shop in a way. I'm bringing it
Now
right down
there's
front.
more questions.
No, I'll try to help answer that too. So my name is Roger Carlson. I'm on the Harbor Commission and also on the Amenities Working Group. I've been on the Harbor Commission for almost 4 years now, which means I'm a volunteer that comes to a meeting here every month. And for the first 2 or 3 of those years, we didn't do a lot because the harbor was pretty gridlocked by cleanup of, the sort of the post-Center Cal issues. Even, where the boat ramp might go, the boat ramp potentially ending up back on Mole A or Mole B, gridlocked, anything you could do anywhere throughout the harbor. That's finally loosening up. We're finally able to do things. There is money for Moonstone Park. There's the 2.4 million you talked about earlier. And when this amenities program kicked off a year ago, the city council specifically said to us, please fast track Seaside Lagoon because of all the great things going on there. And also please fast track Moonstone Park. There's existing plans, dust them off, make sure they still fit, see what people want now. Those plans are pretty old and deserve a second look. So, I really hope we're going to do something this time. Kind of feel like, Lucy and Charlie Brown kicking the football. But there really is money. There really is a willingness in the Harbor Commission. You can see a willingness in the amenities plan. And hopefully this will break loose in different areas. It won't all be, one master RFP. Hopefully you'll see things move forward. And I really hope you'll see something in Moonstone Park. That's all I had. So thanks, Roger. It's in a city budget. And,
it's in the city budget. It's waiting to be used. Yeah. Thank you.
So I'll hand this back on.
Anything in Zoom?
Yeah, we do have a question online. Betty Anderson, I see your hand is raised. You can go ahead.
My understanding is that we are discussing the connectivity aspect of this plan, and I just wanted to mention that right now you cannot walk from the boardwalk all the way over to Mole B or any of those sections. You have to come back out on the parking lot, and the benefit of living in a beachside community is to be able to walk by the beach. I'm not necessarily a get in the water person, but absolutely love being able to go down and just walk along the beach at any time. And right now in this section of our waterfront, it's not possible. So their plan to extend those walkways so they're connecting all the way through is fantastic. I understand it might be complicated to have to park the boats a little bit away in order to get them to the boat ramp, but I'm concerned that if you bring the access for bringing boats, if you drive them up, that you're going to impair that walkability and the safety of people who do want to go down and be able to walk from one side to the other and back again. I was just absolutely thrilled that that was going to be part of this project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We do have someone ready with a mic right now. We'll go to you.
So Kathy Gould again. First, a comment on the connectivity and then a comment on the funding. Is it on now? Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
So I swim, but I also run, and I find myself often running along Harbor Drive and forced into the bike path because there are pedestrians on the sidewalk, and I see that a lot in both directions. And so I just want to make sure that when we think about connectivity, we're thinking about a way to somehow separate the bikes from the runners, and I know the pedestrians and the runners can mingle, but make it safer than it is now, because it's a crapshoot, especially on the weekends when the cycles come barreling down Harbor Drive and runners are trying to run and people are trying to go into the restaurants, to the Cheesecake Factory and whatever, and are walking on the sidewalks. My family's been in Redondo Beach since 1920. And in that time, they've seen a lot of development, redevelopment, thinking about how things go. I just want to say, I think the move towards the city taking control and building this into your budgets and into your planning and not relying on the private sector to do it all is just a great thing for the city. And I thank you.
Thank you. We can stay in person. I think got one right here.
Hi, this is Tyler Bass, and I just wanted to ask if there's going to be like any extensions to like the free parking that we have at Moonstone Park. I mean, not specifically for there, but just in general to like all of the public areas. Because like if you really want to get people and like drive them down to be there, like there has to be like parking where they can stay there, and they don't, you know, like people will spend like all day in Moonstone Park, and like if we had that in other places, I really think it would allow people to stay down there and actually use the facilities a lot better.
Thank you. Do we have anybody in Zoom? No? There's one in the back over there, back corner.
Hi, my name's Cameron Flynn. I'm a member of Lanakila, Redondo resident for 38 years, so basically my whole life. It's really cool to see progress on this. I want to just make a general comment that I think the iterative approach in phasing this out is really smart, so I like to see that a lot. I'm really curious, there's the other big elephant in the room that's not related to the amenities plan per se, but I'm wondering if there's coordination with what's going on with the AES plant and any future plans, and if anything might be duplicative. So I don't know if there's any commentary on that.
Yeah, I mean, generally, it's its own site. It's you know, it's behind this effort because the state keeps extending the lifespan of that site. But we realize, you know, it's technically not the waterfront, but it's right there, and it's another opportunity site, so that when it does become under our control, it'll likely come through a process similar to this. But in addition to creating its own plan, we'll want to make sure it connects to whatever we're doing here. We don't want to operate in silos. So if and when that process starts, we'll want to make sure it interacts with this plan in a well-heeled manner. But that's probably several years down the road. And there was another one up front here.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Alex. I'm the wife of one of these amazing Lanakila paddlers. To see that for the last few years is just incredible. We're little children mixed with 80-some-year-old men, and it's amazing. But I want to bring up really quickly the parking. Right next to the Moonstone Park, there's that big lot. It used to be very easy, and people would just put a few dollars in these little slots. And now it's always was full for whoever used the park. Now they did the system where you have to go online. It's very complicated. Now there's no one that parks there anymore. So even though it's, you know, an app or something, it's been complicated. Now people go and don't park there, and no one can use it anymore because it's very complicated. So that was my comment.
Great, thank you. Anybody in Zoom?
No?
Nothing in Zoom.
No raised hands.
Anybody in person? Did you see someone, Jeremy? Oh.
Hi, can I say something about number one if we're finished with it?
I think so, yeah.
General open topic, I think. At this
Yeah,
point.
Yeah. My name is Kathy Welsh. I've lived here for 31 years, and I just want to put an exclamation point on the need for a swimming pool, a lap pool. I have to drive 25 minutes to Hawthorne or El Segundo 3 times a week to go swim laps. So it'd be nice to have one close in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, we got one more. The mic's coming to you.
And then we do have some hands on Zoom now.
Okay, great.
Okay, well, you probably guessed my selfishness is about Mole B. And I don't know how well the study has been done, but the intensity of our use on the small piece that we've got compared to the bigger park next to us is 10 or 20 to 1. And we need all of that park that we can get. I know you got to have some of it I get that you're going to have a helicopter, but and if there's just one thing I could get out of this is that we need more space. There's a lot of people we would like to serve in the community. Can't do it without the space. We are the largest club in California out of 26 clubs. We're clearly the most successful. We've won the most state championships, US championships, and world championships in the state of any club. We got the worst facilities of any 20 of the 26 clubs. We're, our launch ramp, our facilities, and our amount of space per member is the worst in California out of 26 clubs. We need every square foot of the park that we can get, bottom line. And that was my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are transitioning back over to Zoom.
Yes, Barbara, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure that everybody in the conversation understands that Moonstone Park was created to pay homage to the memory of Moonstone Beach, which took up probably, I would guess, from the pier to the city limits of Hermosa Beach. Moonstone Beach was a very important part of Redondo Beach's history, and it was all destroyed by one development or another, for one use or another. And now people, I don't think, realize that Moonstone Park has this historical function of trying to save one little tiny piece of what used to be a magnificent beach. So please look up the history of Moonstone Beach and you'll understand why Moonstone Park should be preserved in its entirety.
Thank you. Do we have another one from Zoom?
Yes, I see Anna, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
I don't have my camera on, but I'll tell you that so I'm a local resident. I've been here since 2006, I think it is. And I'm a master swimmer, a lap swimmer, a water polo parent as well for my child who plays water polo. And I'd like to put in my strong support for more pool space in this area. And frankly, that the lagoon that's there I've been there before when my kids were little, and it's useless and kind of gross. In that place, you could put, either a 25-yard or even a 50-meter pool that could be used by our community year round. And you can even put like a wading pool next to it with the water slides and the fountains and whatever, so that to be used is exactly the same thing as what is used for the lagoon is used for now, except it'd be used year round and in chlorinated water. Right now, my daughter is playing water polo. Her practices at Redondo Union High School end at almost 10 o'clock at night, and she's 13, and they have kids there as young as 10 finishing that late because of how little pool space that we have right now. And as the previous person who mentioned about the pool is that, if you want lap swimming, you essentially have to go all the way to Hawthorne to get it, made more complicated now because what was previously the closest, which is the El Segundo pool, is closed long-term with a broken heater. So, there's no reason why we shouldn't have a facility closer that could be used for not just the swim community, but for swim lessons, senior water aerobics, all kinds of activities that we need here. We have, I think we have at least 4 kids swim teams in this area. We have 2 kids water polo teams in this area. We have a big demand for master swimming for older adults, as well as like the people who want to just come and lap swim. And not to mention, all of the demand for swim lessons that we need just for basic water safety for our kids. So please consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we've got one more in person.
Yeah, I have a question. You talked about future-proofing the harbor against sea level rise. I'm wondering what your projections are for additional use through all this development and what impact that will have, not so much on traffic, but on parking capacity and what's the future-proofing of that? Because, you know, on one side, you know, as the gentleman said, there's way too much empty parking, but if this is successful, you'll have too little. And we're trying to encourage more walking and biking. I think that the recent hikes in parking have encouraged more bicycling. I know from my wife, who now only bicycles here when she can help it instead of driving. Where is the future-proofing on traffic and parking and also accommodating new patterns in transportation as we change to different patterns? Thanks.
So I can touch on that briefly in that while it's not part of this project, it is one of our recommendations to have a circulation and traffic study done on the short term for this area.
No, go ahead.
Hi, Dinghy Docks, King Harbor Youth Foundation. Hi, Andy Beggs, King Harbor Youth Foundation. Again, I just want to make two more comments. One is I heard a lot of positive feedback about creating pedestrian walkways along the water, which I fully support. However, there's one place where we have to be very careful to avoid pedestrians, and that's the boat launch. So I know you guys have probably studied all the other marinas in Southern California. The reference point I think of is Santa Barbara. They've done a great job of making sure the boat launch is completely separated from pedestrians and bikers because cars and trucks attempting to go in reverse with a trailer is scary by itself, let alone with bikers and pedestrians. So please strongly consider finding a way to keep those two separate. The only other comment I'd like to make is, Jeremy, you started the meeting by referencing the fact that so many people come to the marina to relax by watching other people do activities, and that's completely true. Further up the coast at Manhattan Beach Pier, for example, the visitors and the tourists come to the pier just to watch kids surf. Like my kid, they come just to watch him surf as he, tries to show off in front of everybody. Down here at King Harbor, they see two groups of people and the tourists are amazed and enthralled by them. And one is Lana Kina. And I really want the community to understand that they are the attraction. They're the attraction. That's what people are coming to watch when they come down to the Horseshoe Pier. The other one is King Harbor Youth Foundation youth sailing teams. And I'm talking about our Optimist sailors from 8-year-olds to 13-year-olds. And I'm talking about our FJ high school sailors, including sailors from Redondo Beach, Redondo Union High School. And these kids, as they practice almost every day in the winters and the summers, and the paddlers, this is what people are watching, and this is what they're enjoying, and this is what they're going to go home from their vacations, and that's what they're going to talk about. So support us. Support us. Thank you.
Okay, any in person? We don't have any Zooms right now.
Hello, my name is Moses Ramler. I'm the president of Lanakila Outer Canoe Club. I'd first like to thank Jeremy and SWA and all of your associates for all the hard work that you've put in. I'd like to thank Greg and city staff for putting in a lot of hours, as well as the Harbor Commission and the working group. I'd also like to thank the Lanakila community for coming out and supporting this whole amenities plan. I think what we're doing here today is a much better approach than what we have done in the past. There are things about surveys that are tough, and I think you can get a good gauge of where we can go. Public feedback is great. Lanakila as a whole, and I think the community, we don't have enough awareness of what we do down there. And I think that's where we failed. And I think the survey shows that we didn't represent ourselves to the best ability. And what that does for us, it puts us a little bit behind in trying to create a space that can put more people on the water. And to Barbara on Zoom, I love the idea that Moonstone is a representation of what Moonstone Beach was. And I hope that she knows that Lanakila and the whole Outer Canoe Clubs want to represent an extension of that beach. We are an extension of the park. We are a gateway into the ocean, and we put a lot of people onto the water, and that's what a beach does. So we might be a facility that stores equipment. However, what our primary goal and culture is to bring community and family down to the water, to give them access to the water. And in essence, we are part of that beach, that Moonstone Park beach. We call it Carpet Beach. And, it is modest, but we've accomplished a lot of really great things, and we've had a lot of great memories, and we've seen a lot of great people come in through our organization. So we always invite the community down to check us out. And we are a great attraction for people that are hanging out and watching. And we love to field questions, and we love to be a part of it. And yes, we do need a little bit more space so that we can have a little bit more equipment placed and we don't sit on top of each other. This just gives us a little bit more opportunity to bring more people down. Creating a safer launch creates a better environment for all of the community. We did an internal survey because we didn't do a great job on your survey. And I'm going to turn this in as notes, but we have over 150 testimonials here. And it shows that we are a really great piece of this harbor, and we want to work with the community. We are begging the public to understand who we are, and we want to express who we are to the public because we are the public. And it is important for us to have your support. And it is important for us to know that, or to have you know that everybody is welcome. And we want to put people on the water. And that is our goal. And that is our intent. Again, thank you. I appreciate all of that, all the work that you have done. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Got about 5 minutes left. I see one more person wanting to
We
speak.
also have a hand raised on Zoom.
Okay, we'll do that one next.
I actually had a question, Moses. You guys are looking for 2,500 extra square feet. What is that for? Is that for more OC1 and OC2 storage, or is that for your big boats and your trailers?
That's for the big boats and trailers. Right now, we stack boats on top of boats, and it is pretty damaging. So to get that extra 8 feet of space, 40 times 40 feet long, it adds up really quick for us.
Okay.
That's the primary use, and I know that we can design it and engineer it better, but if we can get more of those big boats down there, it'll help us.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand so for those who couldn't hear him, he said it's for the big boat storage and operations on the pad. It's not for more OC1 and OC2 storage. Thanks, Moses. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We do have one more person on Zoom that wishes to speak.
Yes, Lisa, you can go ahead.
Hi, thank you very much. I am president of the Surfside swim team. We've been around for over 50 years, and we're a key resource for encouraging children to have a lifetime love of the water and swimming. And particularly in the recent past year or so, there has been a substantial limit in pool space in the South Bay, and it's made it very challenging for all of the youth swim teams to find space and enough time to safely let the children practice. And that is a key part of, in a water-focused community, really would like to request that consideration for a lap pool. We only have the high school pool, and that's pretty maxed out most of the time. So would love consideration for additional pool space. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are nearing an end to our time here. I think I'll move on to Jeremy. Maybe you can do next steps and wrap us up.
Yeah, I think I definitely can. I mean, what's What's great about this process and what's great about being a landscape architect or urban designer is you really get to get a feeling for the communities you work with. And I think that's one of the things that SWA was really excited to do when we took this project on. And it's been absolutely wonderful, actually, with the amount of communities that we have dealt with over the past many years to see the outpouring for the harbor here. You really get a feeling that Redondo Beach loves their harbor. People like it from all different angles all the way through, and it's very near and dear. And so to hopefully be, as Roger was saying, part of the impetus where this will actually bring forward something that's going to move forward incrementally, we just really thank you for letting us be part of it, and we look forward to participating as it continues, hopefully. And next steps wise, you can see earlier what we said, we're in phase 3, which was today, share our recommendations and receive community comments. Over the next month, we'll be taking the comments we've heard today, making some adaptions in some of the information that we've provided to date, of course, and then tailoring that back, working with Greg and his team to make sure that those are represented within the plans in some way, shape, or another, as well as the additional information that we've heard through our surveys. It will also include an implementation plan with some true numbers, costing, rough orders of magnitude for each of these elements, and an implementation from 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, as to what we see would be possible for that. So we look forward to continued comments in the public hearing period. There'll be 3 months when this plan goes through, the draft version of it. It'll go up in front of the Harbor Commission, and it'll be up in front of City Council. We will be there to answer more questions about it. And we look forward to working with you guys over the next few months.
Thank you, everybody. I will add, we've got a website here. That's the King Harbor Amenities Plan website if you want more information on any of this. We also have an email address. If you guys want to submit any additional comments, feel free to send them directly to this email address. That's KH, stands for King Harbor Amenities Plan at redondo.org, not com.org.
Is this briefing online?
The presentation, you mean?
Yeah.
We can absolutely put it on there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can.
Yeah, we'll get it on there.
This was recorded tonight too, yeah? Yeah, so we can also post, so both this briefing and the recording of tonight's proceedings will also be, that'll be under the khamenities.plan.com. We'll have that put up. I know our social media consultants in the audience somewhere, Danielle. So perfect.
So please feel free to submit more comments to us through this avenue. We're still listening. Thank you, everybody.
Again, for those of you on Zoom, thank you for joining. We're wrapping up here. I'll send the email address through the chat so that you can see it here as well.